South Korea and Poland have agreed that they're optimal partners for major projects, namely reconstruction over in Ukraine and in the defense industry. For more, we're joined by Professor Lee Hee-eun this morning. Great to have you with us.
Hey, good morning. Thanks for having me.
President Yoon Suk Yeol and his Polish counterpart Andrzej Duda agreed that the two countries are optimal partners for Ukraine's reconstruction. Now, Professor, how are they so optimal? I mean, what kind of cooperation and projects can we actually expect?
Right. This is a good example of supply and demand. And in this case, the supply is, of course, given by South Korea, and the demand is going to be from Poland. But of course, it's ultimately going to result in Ukraine's reconstruction. And so the reason why they're so optimal is because Poland is located in a really good location with respect to supplying the needs of Ukraine's reconstruction. Ukraine shares a large western border with Poland. And therefore, because Poland will be, I think, critical to the reconstruction of Ukraine, with South Korea having, advanced infrastructure technology with respect to road building, as well as IT technology. We have many major companies that can provide internet connectivity as well as cell phones. This is the kind of cooperation that I think is ideal when it comes to when the war eventually is over. Ukraine will need this sort of support from South Korea, and with Poland being a good logistical hub for supplying those needs.
So perfect geographic conditions. And now on top of that, the two leaders also vowed to work harder to ensure mutually beneficial cooperation in the defense industry. Now, Poland purchasing over $15 billion worth of Korean weaponry like K2 tanks. Do you think there'll be further purchases?
Oh, absolutely. I think in this case, Poland obviously is very concerned about what's happening in Ukraine. It really perceives Russia to be a great threat to its national security. And with the United States focused, of course, in Ukraine itself, but also with threats in China and other parts of the world, the United States has traditionally been a very large arms manufacturer. But Korea has been able to sort of fill the need for a lot of other countries that are unable to necessarily access certain kinds of high-level technology. And because South Korea has often offered very cost-effective means for producing things like tanks, aircraft, as well as even naval vessels, as well as just ammunition and armaments. South Korea, I think, is uniquely positioned in this case to then supply countries like Poland, who see maybe not an immediate threat necessarily of war happening in its own borders, but certainly in the future, it needs to build up its capacity with respect to its defense industry.
The same supply-demand situation that you mentioned also applies in the defense industry, I guess.
Absolutely.
Right. And topping Yoon Duda talks was also condemnation on North Korea's latest ICBM launch and also doubling their efforts to improve the human rights situation in the regime. Now, why is it so important that Poland also plays a role in dealing with North Korea issues?
Well, historically, Poland has actually had a very close relationship in the past to North Korea. As you will recall, Poland was part of the Eastern Bloc countries at the end of during the Cold War that had very active ties with North Korea. Poland currently still has an embassy, and they have normal diplomatic relations between the two. Now, of course, those things have cooled off quite a bit since Poland has engaged South Korea, particularly after Poland's democratization efforts in the 80s and 90s. But that remains, there still remains a relatively closer relationship between Poland and North Korea. And so with respect to, and I want to mention here as well, North Korean workers were found to be in Poland as well. So there is a historic relationship between the two. So Poland exercises some sort of, I wouldn't say leverage per se, but there is that maintaining of relations between the two sides, which remains stable. And so if Poland can exercise some of its goodwill with respect to North Korea, maybe there's some role for Poland to play with respect to North Korean policy and North Korea's general ideas with respect to human rights and other matters of importance.
And A South Korea-Poland business roundtable coming up in the coming hour. This time, an 89-member business group has tagged along on Yoon's trip to Europe. What does that say about economic cooperation and relations between the two countries? I mean, what tangible outcome can we actually expect from the meeting?
Well, President Yoon has wanted to be, Korea's #1 salesman. So in this case, it sort of fits in that sort of vein of his policies of increasing foreign trade. And I think, Poland is certainly one of those countries which desires Korean products. But also, I think it sees itself, with respect to South Korea, as not being a direct threat to any of Poland's national interests. South Korea is a relatively a country of great goodwill, has a lot of soft power. I think certainly Poland could access other countries and get their support. But I think Korea plays a unique role in the world because it's not seen to be a great threat to other countries. And so if Poland wants to engage in greater economic cooperation, there's no particular trade-off on the Polish side with respect to giving up any political sovereignty or any kinds of issues that it may have to compromise. So I think Poland sees South Korea as a very unique, contributing partner to its economic development. And I think South Korea has, of course, a lot to offer given its own history with respect to reconstruction, but also Korea's position in the world as being a great supplier of great technological needs, including nuclear, energy, as well as other areas which I think South Korea can make a great contribution to.
Sure. An optimal win-win situation for both South Korea and Poland. All right, Professor Lee Hee-eun, thank you so much for joining us this morning. You have a great day.
Thank you.